Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker, and I'm here, guess what, everybody, with Patricia Kirkman, PK, who is feeling better, and she is joining us tonight for a little while to share the numbers, and then she's going to go rest again, because this is quite a recovery you're involved in, PK, huh?
Unfortunately, yes. I figured out I'm going to have to, as my kids say, get wrapped in bubble wrap. That's the only way I'm going to survive these things. Crazy stuff. My goodness.
Oh, gosh.
It's so
well,
good to be back, especially with the guest we have tonight. What a doll he is.
A dear friend of ours for so long is with us tonight. Robert Luca is here tonight. We're going to bring him on in a few minutes, and we're going to get caught up with everything that's going on. You know, this is such a big issue, this harassment of UFO abductees by our very own government, and we're going to hear more about that and other things tonight. But first, let's check in with you with the numbers. What is happening?
Well, we're in a too-personal month, which means everybody's ultra-sensitive, and they're feeling everything, and they don't want to be left out of the loop, and yet they're afraid to step in for fear something's going to happen. Emotions are going to be very key to everything, and you're going to find there's the tendency to say many things of overly sensitive nature that are going to set people up. Their hair goes up the back of their neck because they figure something else is coming. Well, there is, but it's not coming immediately. So people are fearful of what they say or what not to say, and today's an 8-day, so they want to be in charge. So they don't like it if they can't be in charge. So we're kind of tug of war here. But I had some people call and ask me a couple of questions about with this pandemic ongoing and what we see coming up. Well, my crystal ball only says certain things. These answers I don't get. But the main thing to take a look at is this month we are all ultra sensitive, and we're going to be told lies, some not untruths to the nth degree. Next month, there's going to be a lot of communications going on, a lot of creativity, but it has a luck factor to it. So getting through this time, next month gives us hope. And I hate to say this, but when we started talking about 2020, we said at the beginning that this would be a difficult year because it dealt with details of things. It would deal with health, and that it has without doubt. But October is going to open the doors. There's going to be some major changes. So just hang on by your fingernails if you have to. It's going to get better. But we're going to have this up and down for the next couple of months. So don't trust everything you hear this month. There'll be some gossip going on next month, but it will be helpful in the end. The following month, details and health issues can be put in order. In the following month, major changes and things will start looking up. So I just thought that might help.
That's good, because I know you and I had discussed earlier that it also, there's a feeling of unease. Now, certainly we have a different world we're facing today. But, yeah, there's this feeling like something's coming, and we just don't know what it is. Now, when Captain Kramer was on, he did talk about there were, I think he said 4 or 5 different stages, because they run the statistical analysis on the future and what's coming. And he said the next stage would be all of this uproar around Iran, China, United States, Russia. And certainly, look at what's going on in Iran right now. They're having all kinds of place is hit, and yet they're not really talking about it. Some people are saying it's because these sites that are being hit aren't supposed to exist. So here we have all this turmoil. We have Egypt and Libya gearing up. So it's exactly what Captain Kramer said, was coming. But the thing that is really interesting that he said, as you recall, it's just amazing, is that the next stage after that would be an alien presence. So, my God, he's been right about everything so far. And this would be shocking beyond belief. So we're all going to have to fasten our seatbelts, I think, for what comes next. But you're so right about everybody feeling overly sensitive, too.
Yeah. Well, as they are right now, but next month there's going to be communications coming of some sort that's going to be different, and it's going to open some doors. Then there's going to be the panic afterwards, because as much as people want to know, they're afraid to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a very strange, the next 3 months are going to be very, very different and difficult. Mm-hmm. And unless some of the powers that be get their heads placed out of the you-know-what's and get some things taken care of for us, because people are scared and they're doing stupid things. And then we've got that one small segment that's arrogant as can be, and they think they're invincible. Hey, folks, we've got to play it close to the vest. It's like a card game. You have to play what you get, but don't overplay your hand. We might get hurt.
Yeah, and with all of the uproar about masks, and I've talked to people all over the country that are very disturbed by the fact that people won't take that extra precaution. And
I know it.
Certainly, I mean, we're finding out when they don't that it makes a big risk for everybody. So it doesn't make sense to take that kind of a risk. I know there's a lot of controversy about, does the mask help? Well, if it even helps the smallest amount, why not use it?
Exactly. So, it beats what we've got right now, which is nothing. For all intents and purposes, the only thing we have. And I think it should be mandatory, because that way there's no he said, she said, whatever. If it's mandatory, then there's no fights in the stores about you don't have a mask on, you need to get what. It's silly. People are acting like children.
Yes.
Scared children.
Yes.
That's the scary part.
Yes. I even heard the most absurd story the other day about a person in a grocery store, and this happened a couple of months ago, where somebody was not wearing a mask and they were coughing. And so a man walked up to that man and started coughing in his face, and they started having a coughing, basically a coughing fight. It was how silly.
How stupid.
I mean, we're not 2 years old anymore. Let's grow up, people. So.
No, and unfortunately, too many of them aren't growing up. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for us is the fact it's the unknown. But if you take a look at all the things on the table right now, between the things that are ongoing universally, government-wise, the things that are coming out about everything from pedophilia to, oh, God, you name it, we've got it out there. And, hey, folks, let's take a look, and let's take one thing at a time. Right now, let's get a group and let's get this health thing under control. Well, we've got a chance to take care of it. Fool around too late. Then what are we going to do?
That's right. That's right. It would be too little too late. So I know a lot of people here in New England, they get it. They're wearing their masks. I go into a place of business, and everybody's wearing a mask, and it does give me a source of comfort there. So, but yet I hear about other places where that's not happening, and it does create a different thing.
They're talking about shutting things down again. California, of course, is starting to settle things down again. And, it doesn't take anything to put a mask on, for God's sakes. Do it. If it works, we're safe. If it doesn't work, what have we lost?
Yeah. You're right. Exactly.
It's going right now. I don't like the end result. I mean, hey, it's my kids and my children's future that we're playing with. Just think of it in terms of that. It isn't just about us. It's about our neighbors. It's about the elderly. Right now they're saying bringing in refrigerated cars into trucks into Arizona because of what's going on here.
Yeah,
well, come on.
victims of bodies to deal with. I know, and yes, I know. It's very concerning. So we all need to do what makes some sense and see if we can beat this thing sooner rather than later.
I think we can if we all do what our fair share is. That's looking at taking care of one another.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
a chance we've got.
Exactly. Wow, my goodness. Well, that's our rant for tonight, everybody.
I promise next time I'll do better. I've got some good stuff coming up next month. Woo-hoo.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it sounds like quite a roller coaster ride. So we have got a lot of exciting things that are going to be happening, and we'll have to see what's next. But right now, we have a terrific guest, and Bob Luca. Robert
He's
Luca.
Wonderful.
My God, he's the best. He's the best, and he knows the subject inside now personally. Yes, and he's going to give
talk about having been there and done that. You better believe it.
That's right. He is a witness and an abductee himself, and he's had multiple experiences with being tracked, followed, and harassed for over 30 years. The most startling event was the hacking of Bob's computer by the Department of Defense, which the DOD admitted they had done. Now, Bob's wife, Betty, is known worldwide for her highly detailed alien abduction account reported in the New York Times bestseller, The Andreasson Affair, and a follow-up book, A Lifting of the Veil, written by both Betty and Bob. Now, also I want to mention this, many of Betty's predictions given to her by the ETs have come true, and I know we're going to get into that tonight.
True.
See what else is coming up. Yeah, so now got to ask the audience, if you were harassed like this by your own government, what would you do? Now, if you have any questions for Bob as we go on with the show, then you can give us a call at 563-999-3539. Again, that's 563-999-3539. So, Bob, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you much. It's always a pleasure to be with you two ladies. Appreciate it.
We
appreciate you.
Yes, we really do.
Thank you.
We do.
Now, I don't want to scare anybody right off the bat, but I'm not wearing my mask right now.
Okay, no problem.
Oh my God! Are you breathing into the mic? Will it come to the mic?
But we're doing our social distancing. We're like 1,000 miles apart, so.
Oh, that's true. We did take care of that part.
Exactly. Gosh. So, well, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of background about what happened, how this all got started before we go into your account, Bob, of your experiences. So this all began for Betty on January 25th, 1967 in South Ashburnham, Mass. Now, feel free to correct me, Bob, if I have anything incorrect. But Betty was in the kitchen with, her 7 children, her mom and dad were in the living room. At approximately 6:30 p.m., the lights in the house blinked and a red-colored beam shone through the kitchen window. Now, Betty's father was the first one to see 5 strange beings coming toward the house, and it was like they were hopping. This was the beginning of one of the most celebrated cases in UFO history. Now, Betty's case was investigated over a 12-month period and involved a physicist, electronics engineer, aerospace engineer, telecommunications specialist, hypnotist, a UFO investigator, and a psychiatrist. Betty was given a character reference check, 2 lie detector tests, a psychiatric review, and 14 sessions of regressive hypnosis. And the results were reported in a 528-page publication stating that Betty was sane and sincerely believed all the details given in her statements. Now, many more unusual experiences were to follow, both UFO and paranormal. And when the alien abduction experiences became public, both Betty and her husband Bob, who's with us tonight, were shadowed relentlessly by government agents. Now, the Andreasson Affair, written by Raymond Fowler, became a bestseller in 1979, And Fowler continued documenting Betty's experiences as well as your experiences too, Bob. And he penned 4 more books, including The Andreasson Affair Phase 2, The Andreasson Legacy, The Watchers, and The Watchers 2. So you also have your own book that you did most recently in the last couple of years, A Lifting of the Veil. So all of these books are still available on Amazon.com. So, Bob, what an unusual life you have led. My goodness. Did you ever think that you would be the focus of so much interest by the alphabet agencies?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing, that 500-page report was just on the Andreasson affair. The experiences continued after that, and actually, under hypnosis, they found out that Betty's first experience happened when she was 7 years old. She had experiences at 7 and 12 also. And my own first experience happened when I was 5 years old. So apparently, we've been watched for some time, and interestingly enough, my own mother remembers having an experience of seeing a craft and lost time. However, till the day she passed away, she would not undergo hypnosis. She was afraid of it, and she just really didn't want anything to do with it. But it seems to follow family lines, because there have been experiences of our children since, but they don't want that made public.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I understand that. As some of our guests have said, there's not a big upside to publicizing any of this.
Well,
and you found that out.
First, you become an outsider. Some people look at you and think you're nuts. And in the beginning, it was a little difficult. But now, if I see people like that, skeptics, I say, well, they're just unfortunately ignorant of the facts of what's really going on in this world, in the world about them. And if this is not my problem. I used to think, well, I felt bad about it. No more. I feel bad for the people that really have no clue what's happening around them.
That's a great attitude.
Probably just made a bunch of enemies.
well, not so much anymore.
Everyone is finally starting to open up, Bob. I think that's the most important gift you've been able to give people. You've opened our eyes.
Well, the way we both look at it is, hey, it happened. If some people can't handle it, that's their problem. But it is coming, and the time is coming when these strangers, aliens, whatever you want to call them, are going to be here in numbers. And it's probably not that far off. I expect to see some interesting things slightly before the next presidential election. I have a feeling some things are going to be coming out then. President Trump, whether you like him, love him, hate him, whatever, he's been hinting around, like he's recently said on the news. He's heard some very interesting things about Roswell. Well, Roswell has been beat to death, but the fact is, it happened. People in the know, in the upper levels of the military and intelligence services, all know that was real. There's no doubt about it, and it's too bad that we're still stuck, kind of back there when so much more has happened more recently. And people just need to open their minds, look at what's really going on, and, stop the BS. There's a lot of hardworking investigators out there in the UFO phenomena, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people passing around a lot of BS and disinformation as well. So I like to look at facts. And you can look at, recently, the Navy, the United States Navy, has patented essentially a UFO. It goes underwater, it goes in the air, and it can fly in space. And it basically has a free energy electrical system and an anti-gravity capability. Now, I'm sure there's people listening that are going to say, oh, baloney and things like that. So let me make this clear. You can check it on the United States Patent Office. The patent is US 10-144-532-B2, and the date of the patent was December 4th, 2018. Anybody that wants to take the time can go check it for themselves. Also, if you look back at people that were involved in the Skunk Works, Ben Rich used to be the CEO of Skunk Works. He made some real interesting statements before he passed away. He said, and I quote, "There are two kinds of UFOs out there." He said, "The ones we build and the ones they build." And he also stated that we have the technology to take ET home. He said, almost anything you can imagine we can do. But he said this technology is so tied up in black projects that it would take an act of God to get it out to the public, to benefit the public. Now, I have seen a little bit of this on a very small scale, and I've mentioned this before. I used to work for a hydrogen fuel cell company in Florida. I was a research technician. The company had developed a type of fuel cell that you could use in your home. It made heat, hot water, electricity, and made zero pollution. Now, the company, called Energy Partners, was ready to buy a factory and go into manufacturing this device. Well, what would happen if they did? You would not need to buy oil for your furnace. You could disconnect from the power lines. So that apparently bothered some people. And I'll tell you what happened. We all went into work one day, and there was a big sign on the door, and it said, "Go to the Ramada Inn, a certain conference room." And everybody is happy that, wow, we must be going into production. We're going to start selling these. Well, we got there, and we were met by attorneys from ExxonMobil. And guess what? They bought the place up. That was in 2002, and I haven't seen those things anywhere in the U.S. Plain and simple, at least in my opinion, they wanted to kill the technology because they want to keep selling oil, of course, and they don't want you to disconnect from the power lines because the people that really run the world are the people that have all this money and control over the rest of us.
Right.
So that's just a very small scale. So when I look and say, well, I know what some of the UFO technology is, and I know darn well why they don't want it out, because the people that are going to suffer are the elite, the ones that presently control the world's finances. I believe there's something like 150 companies that control 80% of the world's money. So they don't want to lose that. And people need to wake up and realize what the heck is going on. We are basically, we're stuck. You have to buy gasoline for your car from them. You have to, buy electricity for your house. And by God, you have to go to Big Pharma, or most people think you have to go to Big Pharma if you have a medical problem. Because these three things are going down the tubes if alien technology is ever released. And I hope it's before too long, to be honest with you. The world needs to be changed, and we need to stop. Also, because of these three major companies, we have polluted the living daylights out of everything, our ground, our water, our ocean, our air. This has got to stop. Plain and simple, it's got to stop. And it's still, people don't see it as related to the UFO phenomena, but it is, because the technology available could put an end to almost all of this.
You're so right. And, it makes me think, too, about solar. Like, for example, when we went to get solar here, because we were getting gouged. I mean, I was getting lectured to by, why are you using so much electricity in this house? It's like, believe me, it's not me. They're raising the rates monthly is what's happening. Look at the bill. And so when we got solar, the thing is we still had to go through the electric company. So it's,
exactly.
You still have to have a partnership with them. You still have to play by their rules unless you go completely off the grid, which is really tough. They don't make it easy to do that. So you're right. They've got us so tied in to the system. It's really hard to get out of it.
One of the things that they're talking about with everything being shut down, look at how the sea animals and things of this nature are all coming back, rejuvenating, because we're no longer polluting with the products that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Yes, and they said that the waters were clearing up in Venice and other places around the world because we weren't out there crabbing them up like we always are. So, yes, it made a huge difference, PK. You're right.
Well, also, there's an area in the Sargasso Sea where I believe the amount of trash in there is almost the size of Texas.
Ugh.
Why are we doing that to a place where we live? We're killing our environment, and people aren't realizing when the environment goes or the oxygen leaves the air, guess what? We're going too. We're not going to be here.
That's right.
And that's irritating. I'm not ready to move to another planet yet.
Although
my
it might
ship
be
doesn't
interesting.
work.
But yes, you're bringing up such incredibly important points. And at the same time, you're also sharing with us the fact that these dark ops, they have the technology, and they're keeping it all underground. They're keeping it all to themselves, and they're using it to weaponize, I'm sure, most of it. But it's not in our hands. We're not the ones benefiting from any of it.
That's true.
Not.
One thing that I found interesting in talking to many other abductees is the fact that a lot of them, like myself, all of a sudden realize we have an environment and we need to take care of it. A lot of people that have genuinely been abducted start immediately showing a much greater interest in what's going on around us, because I think the beings have made us aware of what we're doing and how we are destroying this planet. And I think most people know, at least there seems to be ample evidence that they will not let us have a nuclear war. If you look at some of the other folks that have been in the military that have come forward, UFOs have hovered over our nuclear bases, and they have disabled many of our nuclear missiles. Not only us, they've done the same to Russia and China. They won't let us do this. And, I'm real glad to see that. But on the other hand, I don't think they can interfere directly in what they're doing, and, just come down and pop out the controllers, let's say. I don't think they're allowed to do that. But it would be nice if somebody could do it.
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, it would be nice, again, if we could have the government's not going to release any of this technology, but the aliens can, the ETs can. So this will be interesting if Captain Kramer's statistical analysis comes to be true and that they do form a presence here.
Well, I'm sure they're going to. That's my own personal opinion, though. But anyway, I'm sure they're going to.
I agree with you. I think they will.
There was something else I want to mention, and it's just senior moment,
out.
I guess.
I do a lot of those, Bob.
I know. I wanted to get into this a little bit with President Trump, because a lot of people, especially the late night hosts, newspaper cartoonists, comedy writers, they all are making jokes about President Trump and the space program. Okay, Trump assigned $738 billion spending bill, and he created the Space Force. It's going to be the sixth branch of the U.S. services and the first new military service since the Air Force was created in 1947. Okay?
Yeah, 47.
But 16,000 Air Force active duty and civilian personnel are already been assigned to the Space Force. The Space Force will fall within the Department of the Air Force, but after 1 year, they'll have their own representation on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Okay, so it'll be its own individual department. But here's what people missed. They didn't listen to the words. The new service branch essentially repackages and elevates existing military missions in space from the Air Force, Army, and Navy. That's the part that people missed. This has been going on. We have a Space Force already, and it has been in effect for some time. Now, when I say some time, and if somebody wants to kind of do a little research on it, you can go back to Gary McKinnon, okay? He was a Scottish system administrator and a hacker. In 2002, he was accused of perpetrating the biggest military computer hack of all time. He states that he was merely looking for evidence of like free energy suppression and UFO information that might be useful to the public. Okay, well, the U.S. They tried to extradite him, and they wanted to put him in jail for 70 years. What's interesting? Yeah, what's interesting? Well, first of all, thank God the UK did not let us extradite him. Okay, so that's good. The guy's safe. But here's the thing: while he was doing this, he found a list. This is in the Navy. A list of non-terrestrial officers and ships. And these names could not be found in any list of naval ships because they are not Earth-based. They are in space. We have had this program going on for some time. What Trump has done, he's just putting it all together. In other words, combining what has been done by the Air Force, Army, Navy, so forth, and it's going to be its own new department. So the people that are laughing at this really are just showing their ignorance. I mean, it is. It has been. And Trump is just saying, hey, okay, we're making a new department and a new part of the military, and that's going to be it. So I don't see why people are think it's so funny. It's not. It's reality.
It
and
is,
anybody
and
anybody that takes the time. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's exactly what I was just going to say. What you're going to say. Anybody who takes the time to look at it knows that it's reality based, and he's also bringing this more into the forefront so people can see what's happening. Because as you and I and PK, we all know, a lot of these things have been deeply buried or ignored, or both. And so we haven't been paying attention to what's going on. This is allowing us an opportunity to at least see something about what's going on.
Well, there's another thing that I think you all will be happy to hear, because, again, people didn't listen to the words. When President Trump spoke, he said space is the world's newest war-fighting domain. Well, that had to happen because, obviously, our enemies are getting up there. So that's a given. But what he said that I liked, he said American superiority in space is absolutely vital. He said, we are leading now, but we're not leading by enough. And this is the part I like. He says, but very shortly, we will be leading by a lot. So he knows more, obviously, than what he's telling the public. And I think he is working hard to make sure the U.S. stays in a big position of superiority. And, a lot of people don't like war, and, war is stupid, let's face it. But if this country lets its guard down with the number of enemies we have, both foreign and domestic, I won't mention any parties domestically, but anyway, if we let our guard down, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I mean, there are people that would love to see this country turn socialist communist.
And definitely, unfortunately.
And if they had a shot to do it, they would. So I think, like I say, he's a little coarse. He says what he thinks. A lot of people don't like him because of that, but he is going to push us to the forefront. And I can only hope that in the next election in November that people aren't foolish enough to elect Mr. Biden, because quite frankly, nothing against the man, but if you look at his own speeches, I don't think the man is qualified. I think he does have some problems with dementia or something like that, and
he does.
I just don't think it would be right to put him in that position. So we'll all have to just.
Him in, Bob, I think it's simply so that they can put somebody else in his place that they can't run right now.
Well, they could put in the vice president they want and then say that he was unfit to serve, a year or two down the road. And it's too bad.
I don't think
probably
they'll wait that long.
Yeah. You mean right after the inauguration?
Yeah, they'll just push him right out of the way.
He might be lucky to leave the stage. Let's put it that way.
It's quite possible.
It is.
Well, again, I will say that we've had some people on the show most recently, and one of them is your friend, PK, the astrologer, who said Trump is going to get in again. That's just the way it is.
Oh, yeah.
And Pelosi will be gone. Trump will be in. There's going to be major changes in our technology that it's going to be like the Jetsons, he said, by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And PK, that goes right along with what you said at the beginning of the show, too, that we are going to finally have some access to some of these supersonic things that we have never been able to use before, never even known about before. So that could be a very exciting time for all of us if these things start to get introduced to our culture and society. It'll be a big change.
Well, I think they are going to be. I know that the so-called elite, the controllers, are going to fight it as much as they can, but I think that so much has come out, and there are people now willing to come forward and talk. I think they're not going to be able to prevent this from coming out. I really feel, and it's my own opinion. I don't want people to think I'm speaking from authority or whatnot. It's just my own opinion. But from what I've seen, from the people I've talked to, from other abductees and so forth, and so-called insiders, it really looks like it's going to finally happen, whether the elite like it or not. And I think that will be a great thing for everybody. I think it'll be great when people in third world countries can be able to get clean water, for instance, and have power for their homes and things like that. We need to work on that. And there's so many people trying to get into the U.S. illegally. If they have these conveniences at home and they are able to live a more comfortable life and all, that will take a good part of the stress off of the problem of illegals. It's just we need it, and the fact that it's being held back is just so irritating. Sometimes I think about it, I like to scream, but what are you going to do? That's the way it is for right now.
Well, you and Betty have seen some of this technology firsthand because you've been aboard the ships, and your beautiful wife also is a talented artist who is able to recreate in her paintings and her drawings the ships, the beings, the technology, and I do think that's one of the reasons why everybody was in the government and the shadow government was so interested in both of you.
Oh yeah, the one of the places that we owned, we were on a trip to California and they broke in while we were gone. Now all they took was 3 drawings that Betty had penciled in on the interior of the craft. Now, there was, in the home, there was some jewelry, there were some firearms, some computers. Nothing was taken, nothing was touched except those 3 drawings. And the interesting thing was, because at the time we lived in a very rural area, I had to call the state police because they destroyed the door getting into the place. They had double deadbolt locks, and they just peeled the door back. So I contacted the state police, and an officer came up, and I told him, I said, I was honest with him. I said, look, I said, we're heavily involved in the UFO phenomena. I said, I really think that this is something that was done by government or some agency. And the guy was really nice. He says, well, look, he says, we'll do an investigation. He says, if I can find anything out, he said, I will tell you. So that made me feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, about a week later, about a week later, I went down to his office, and it was another cop there, another state trooper. So I said, where's Officer so-and-so? He said, oh, he's been transferred. I said, well, where is he transferred to? Oh, I don't know. He says, I don't have that information. So I never got a hold of the officer again. Strangely enough, people would disappear like that. There's another instance I'd like to mention. You know, we had endless numbers of black unmarked helicopters, Huey UH-1s and Sikorsky Blackhawks over our home. You saw them at your home.
I did.
Right. Well, I had contacted the military, the FAA, the CIA, the FBI, anyways, everybody trying to find out who the heck owned these things. And I was flying myself at the time. So when they went over, I took notes. I got the approximate altitude, the compass heading, the time of day, and all that. And I sent them to the Federal Aviation Administration, General Aviation District Office in Boston, because we were under their jurisdiction. Well, one fellow there, when I described him, he said, that sounds like a CIA operation to me.
Oh,
and I said, oh, okay. And now I had sent them pictures, and you could see in the pictures, these helicopters are just all flat black. There's not a mark or number on them, which is illegal. They are supposed to carry numbers, and I found out later they do, but the numbers are painted on so close to the color of the body that you can't see them unless you're standing on top of them. So, to make a long story short, one of the agents, a Mr. Sam Martino, came down to our house on a Saturday morning. That's how interested he was. He came down from the Boston to our home in Cheshire. And he left a note on the door because we weren't home. Well, sometime later, we did an article for Connecticut Magazine. And they took it upon themselves to locate witnesses. Well, they found him because after he had left the note, when I called Monday or Tuesday, he had been transferred, and nobody there could tell me where he went. Okay? Very strange coincidence.
Yes.
But anyway, they did, Connecticut Magazine did locate him. And when I interviewed him, he said, oh, I don't know. He says it must have been just shadows or lighting, and they didn't realize what the helicopters were. That was his answer after being interested enough to drive all the way from Boston to Connecticut to our home to talk to us personally. So,
unbelievable. God. Somebody got to him.
Oh, you think that one's bad? Betty and I were on vacation in Florida. So we decided to go to Cape Kennedy and visit NASA. But, it's quite a facility, and I mean, the technology is really great, interesting to look at. Well, we thought while we were there, hey, why not see if we can get an interview with the administrator? So we went to the guard desk, and we told them that we were writing a book, and we would like to interview the administrator. Was there any chance at all that we could get to see him? Well, he made a call on his phone, and he told us that, yes, we could see him. He was willing to talk to us. And I said, oh, great. Well, Betty and I are walking down. It's like a half a mile walk from where we were.
Oh, my goodness.
We walk down. We get all the way down there, and we're met at the door by a secretary who's visibly a little bit nervous. I'm sorry, he's not here. He was here 5 minutes ago when we called from the guard desk. Apparently, somebody must have recognized this or something, because he would not talk to us. And as big as these organizations are, it's just amazing that they won't sit down and have a talk. I called them one-on-one. I asked for an interview. I was turned down cold with no explanation, nothing. Sorry. And that was it. Now, why is it? I mean, the CIA, come on, if they wanted to at least talk to them and, try to snow us or something, we're interesting, but they wouldn't even talk to us. So this is what is going on. The same thing with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I made phone calls, and I recorded them. I have recordings when I called the Pentagon. I said, look, this is one of the conversations we had. I said, you guys say that these things do not adversely affect national security. Yet, when I ask for information, you tell me for security reasons you can't give it to me. Both ways. You know what their answer was at the Pentagon? Nobody here will talk to you.
Our tax dollars at work. Well, yeah, I mean, they talk out of both sides of their face, and we've seen that over and over again, and it's just so annoying. And I want to get into, with you tonight, Bob, some of the specific things that happened that were really over the line on the part of the government and how they harassed you in your home and following you to Florida and all of that kind of stuff. So let's take a very short commercial break right now, and then we'll come back and we'll get into that. So everybody, you are listening to Supernatural Girls Radio. We will be right back.
Pure essential oils, specialized minerals, and a revolutionary anti-aging technology. Astridian combines the best of all scientifically proven ingredients in easy-to-use creams, lotions, and concentrated serums. Astridian's advanced line of products take your skin to a new level of being healthy and beautiful. We offer a variety of collections that address all your skin concerns. The Essential Anti-Aging Series treats and moisturizes your skin for a long-lasting, younger look. The Multivitamin Series promotes healthy skin with high-quality vitamins and minerals. The Sports Series restores skin from cellular damage and stress. Astridian also offers a revitalizing solution for hair and a professional series for doctors and medical spas. Visit astridian.love today and begin your new journey to healthy, beautiful, youthful skin. Astridian, beyond your expectations.
There are a lot of psychics out there. How do you decide which one is right for you? You look for someone who empowers you, who's practical and spiritually connected, who says, here are your opportunities, here are your challenges, and here's a way to deal with them, and then gives you your own toolbox to make your life everything you want it to be. Hi, I'm Corby Mitleid, and that's how I work with you. As a certified professional tarot reader, I've helped thousands of people for over 40 years through my toolbox. Cards, past life retrieval, numerology, spirit guide conferences, and mediumship. Whether it's career, relationships, finances, or your spiritual road, together we can replace your confusion with clarity. And you'll probably find a little laughter along the way. Visit me at CorbyMitleid.com to find out how to cross your bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. And tell me you found me at Supernatural Girls for a special gift with your reading. Corby Mitleid, the practical psychic for catching your tomorrows today. Find me at CorbyMitleid.com. That's CorbyMitleid.com.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are you getting screwed on your property taxes? How to find out and how to fix it. Available on Amazon.com.
Are you frustrated with endless mantras, affirmations, and processes that promise to align your life with your dreams, only to find yourself years later in the same space where you began? Do you feel like you must be doing something wrong because nothing seems to be working? Don't you just wish that someone could shift your consciousness for you and your life could align with your desires without all the effort? Well, your wish is about to come true. Hi, I'm Carrie Cannon, and I have a gift that allows me to align the consciousness of others to be in harmony with their dreams. The best part is, it requires no particular effort on your part. Upon listening to a consciousness alignment, people have reported instant energy shifts, financial windfalls, soulmate connections, healed relationships, physical healings, and more. To gain access to a free trial offer for my entire Manifesting Miracles library of consciousness alignments, go to commandmiracles.com now for details. Again, that's commandmiracles.com for information about our free trial offer. That's commandmiracles.com.
And when they first moved in there, true. And then the government.
Welcome back, everyone, to Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I am here with Patricia Kirkman, PK, and our incredible guest tonight. We're so blessed to have him with us, a wealth of information, an experiencer, an abductee. Bob Luca is here with us tonight. So, oh my gosh, Bob, you are just a great guest, and we're so excited to have you here to continue this conversation. Now, there were some,
thank you.
Some really, it's our pleasure. There are some really big things that happened to you and Betty that were just so far over the line. Let's talk about the time that they broke into your house and
sure.
Your dog was there with you and all of that happened. It was so frightening.
Okay.
Please tell us what happened.
All right. First, I'll give you the short version, then I'll go into detail. The government used several agencies to harass us. You had the military, the IRS, the FBI, probably, I'm pretty sure the CIA, because I was told something about that. And this went on from around 1979 right up until the 2000s. Okay, it started. The first thing that we noticed, this was when the first book was just about to be released. A lot of black helicopters were flying over our home. And sometimes they were low enough that they would rattle the windows. Now, a woman next door to us was later became a city councilwoman, and she did sign a statement to the effect that she didn't have any idea why so many helicopters were over there and why they were flying so low. Now, after, I think we only stayed in that house about a year and a half, and we moved from Meriden, Connecticut to Cheshire, Connecticut. Once we moved to Cheshire, Connecticut, she verified that the flights stopped over the home in Meriden, which was good. However, they started over the home in Cheshire. And these flights would be so low at times, not always, but at times, had I had a baseball, I could have hit them, literally. Now, I took approximately 200 photos of these helicopters at different times, and I wrote everybody I could think of, the military, FBI, civilian helicopter manufacturers, and nobody could tell me whose helicopters these were. However, on one point, I mailed a photo, I can't think of the helicopter manufacturer that makes Hueys.
Sikorsky?
And I got it. Pardon?
Was it Sikorsky?
No, it was the other one.
Okay.
Bell Helicopter.
Oh, Bell Helicopter. Okay.
Right, and I got a response from Mr. Dick Tipton. He was their public relations person, and I had sent that photograph. And I have a letter from him to this day. I have the letter. He said, this helicopter was manufactured, but it did not leave here in that condition. He said, this helicopter has been modified by the military for psychological warfare.
Oh, my
Now, I still have the letter. You know, I like to speak from facts, you know, what I can prove. And that's one. So the other thing was Patricia, you know, I have a sense of humor.
Yes,
so
you do.
You've had to have, honey.
We had so many of these flights coming over, so low, and sometimes once or twice a week, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week. So I had a friend that thought like I did, and he was in the military, and he built me an exact replica of a surface-to-air missile. And I thought, we'll have a little fun with this. So the house that we had at the time had a big cement apron behind the house, kind of like a patio. And whenever these helicopters would approach, it almost always was from the north, sometimes from the west, but usually from the north. So Betty and I are working away one Saturday, and we hear you can't miss a Huey. The sound of the blades are very distinctive. There's a whop, 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 whop like that. So we went out back, and I set up full-size surface-to-air missile on the north. Helicopters approaching from the south. I know it can be because I flew over the house a number of times. Well, he cleared the roof. He could see down to the patio, and he saw that fake rocket. That helicopter made a bank. He went literally sideways. I thought I was going to pull the blades off the thing. And I told Betty, I said, you know, that fellow's headed back where he come from. He's probably going to get a shower and a change of his underwear. It scared him, and there was no doubt about it. But, you know, I have nothing against the guys that fly those things because they're just doing their job.
Right.
But somebody
somebody
was ordering them to do that, to do that harassment. So we just had to put up with that, and it continued all the way. We moved to Hayes, Virginia. They would show up when we were in Florida. Our niece and nephew down there said they knew when we were in the area because they see the helicopters. So before we even got there. So the other interesting thing is a Mr. A. Ramadan of the United Nations he showed up at one of the conferences, asked Betty to write down her entire experience and send it to him, and even gave her his work. And
oops, we're losing you a little bit, Bob. Are you there?
I think we lost him.
Bob, I think we may have lost you, so you may need to call back in.
Call back in,
you just cut out completely. So he just dropped. So, gosh, isn't this amazing? Our own government doing this to their very own people.
That's because they can, honey. That's because they can.
They can.
It's going to be interesting. I want to see what Trump is up to with what Bob was talking about, because we've known that there's something else ongoing for a while. And there's so many things that we don't understand, or people automatically want to say nay about it, but there's too many things happening right now that have no other explanation.
Yes,
crazy.
And like Bob said, you know, he's pulled it all together and put it under one agency heading, and so it's just very interesting. And obviously Bob has his facts straight, and he's a wealth of information on all of these issues. Yes. I mean, they've been through a lot.
He and Betty have been through over the years, going through this.
Yes.
Having to play dodge car, shall we say, because you don't know who's coming and what they're doing and to what degree they're going to disrupt their lives.
Exactly. Well, it looks like Bob is back on with us, so let's turn him on to a live mic here. Okay, Bob, you're back.
Somebody doesn't want me talking.
Yes, you think?
They
I think
you off yet again.
I don't care. Keep talking, Bob.
Yeah.
You be the blabbermouth. You tell it all.
Well, okay, so I thought that was kind of unusual that a representative from the United Nations would come and ask Betty to put everything down in detail. So now we're starting to get the idea between the helicopters and this interest that, that's a little strange. Well, back in 81, we were doing a lecture at MIT, and Dr. Alan Hynek, who anybody in the UFO phenomena knows who he is, he quick during a break ran over to Betty, and he said, look, leave the military out of this and stick to philosophy. So apparently, I guess we were starting to get on somebody's nerves. And I thought it was nice of Dr. Hynek to do this because he was letting us know that, this isn't, might not be good for you. Right. But also, I had a friend, an acquaintance, that got pretty high up in government. And he stopped at the house one day, and to me in the house, he motioned me to come outside. And when we got outside, he told me, he says, you folks need to be careful. He said he had been at a CIA meeting, and he said, they are talking about you people.
Oh, my
God.
And
he just said, he just said, be careful. And this is someone I absolutely trust. He's gotten quite high in government. So, okay, that was another thing. CIA. Well, while we're living in that same home in Cheshire, one morning, Betty and I got up, and we both had a wicked headache. It just felt lousy. And I remember the night before, we were probably around, 12, 1 o'clock, we were in bed, and I could have sworn I heard two men talking in our kitchen. Now, from the bedroom, the kitchen would have been straight down and then off to the right. So I looked at our dog. We had a big shepherd dog. He was about 110-pound shepherd. And he got up, and his front legs spread out right from under him, and he fell flat on his face on the floor. So I said, whoa, this isn't good. So I reached in my nightstand where I had a .38, and I was going to go out and confront whoever was in the kitchen. Well, that's the last thing I remember. I mean, that was it. Everything went black. Well, in the morning, we both felt lousy, had almost like a hangover. And Betty went to work. I went to my job. And when she came home, she said, gee, my left arm has been hurting all day. And I said, that's funny. I said, my right arm has been hurting all day. So we took off our shirts, and Betty on her left arm, now she's right-handed, had about 1.25 inches, kind of black and blue and yellow mark with a needle puncture in the middle of it. I had the exact same thing on my right arm, and I'm left-handed. So apparently they got in the house, and I don't know if they questioned us under some drug or if they were looking for something that I had in my possession, and I may still have today. I don't know, but that was getting pretty bad. I mean, if that's not a violation of your rights, I don't know what is, And we were treated essentially, we were treated essentially like mafia, and we're not. We're law-abiding citizens. Neither one of us had. The only record I have is many speeding tickets, but I mean that's what I used to do.
That's a guy thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I think, the most horrifying of all your experiences to have that type of a physical violation. How the hell did they know that you wouldn't have an allergic reaction to it and die? I mean, they didn't. They gassed you, most likely, and then injected you on top of the gas.
Right.
How did they know that wasn't going to give you a lifelong health problem or end your life? They didn't. I find it horrifying.
No, and they probably didn't care either. But the thing is with that is, had they just come in and asked us for something, we would have told them.
Yes, you've offered to do that so many times. So many times you made that offer.
Well, it wasn't only the CIA because later on, Betty and I, as you know, don't like cold weather.
You sure don't.
So one morning we got up about 1 a.m. and I had a pickup truck and a car. So I took the pickup truck over to a friend's house who was storing my camp trailer for me. About 2 a.m., we were off and on our way to Florida and didn't tell anybody. Well, that was on a Saturday or probably early Sunday morning. And Tuesday, 2 FBI agents with photo ID show up at my work, and they question my coworkers and my supervisors as to where I am. Well, they didn't know because I didn't make it my business to tell people where I was going because just for that reason. When we got back, they told me what happened. So Betty and I went to New Haven to the federal building. We went to the FBI office, and I never said to the man that this had anything to do with the UFO phenomena. I said when I went in that the folks that I work with said you were in my place of employment looking for me, so we have come to see what it is you want. Well, the first thing I was told, we can neither confirm nor deny that we were at your place of employment. Yeah, standard FBI answer. Okay?
Right.
But the interesting thing is I still did not tell him this had anything to do with UFOs. And I said, well, look, while we're here, I said, why are you guys tapping our telephone? And he just looked at me. He said, we usually get blamed. He said, but in your case, it's not us, it's Air Force intelligence. That's what he told me right out. But when I talked to Air Force intelligence, they said, oh, no, we'd need a court order for that. It must be the FBI. So you can see that it's a little bit difficult to get really accurate information from those people.
Yeah, it is. It's very difficult. But you are the only person I've ever met in this entire field that actually caught them with their pants down, and they admitted it. Tell us about the Department of Defense.
Okay, this is interesting. My computer was being hacked more off and on, let's say. So I started tracing the numbers. And I said, something is not right here. Nobody should be that interested in my computer because I don't have anything in there. I don't keep the good stuff, so to speak, in the computer. Just that reason. So I start checking the numbers, and I get this one. It comes back. It said that the hacker was at 7990 Science Applications Court, Vienna, Virginia. And it gives me the computer number, the name of the person, the operator, the network is the Department of Defense, and this one says the Space and Naval Warfare Systems Division. Now, what would they want in a computer of two average people, like Betty and I?
Right. Yes.
Well, if that wasn't bad enough, 48 hours later, the Army hacked my computer, and I caught them as well. And it was from the same exact address. Okay?
Oh, my God.
So, now this is getting irritating. So I write them. I wrote the Inspector General. I couldn't think of the name there for a minute. Mine's getting a little slow at my age. So I wrote the Inspector General, and I said, normally, I wouldn't bother with this. I said, but 2 hacks in 48 hours? I said, why is my computer being attacked? And I got a letter back from the Department of Defense on their letterhead stating that they had checked into it, and yes, in fact, it was their computers. And they said, and I have this in writing, that they would do an investigation. Well, I'm still waiting for that investigation.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet. Okay. So then I said, all right. Well, no sense of humor, these fellas. So then I started on the FBI. I told the FBI, first I went to the Attorney General, the United States Attorney General. Said, my computer's being hacked. Whose jurisdiction does this fall under and so forth? And they said it comes under the jurisdiction of the FBI. So I write the FBI and I complain and tell them that I would like an investigation done. 6 months later, I still hadn't heard from them. So I got to be a real pain in the butt. I start filing Freedom of Information, all kinds of things on them. And it got to the point where I sent them certified mail with a return receipt. They wouldn't even pick it up. That's how irritated they were. So then I went to FBI headquarters, which is here in Virginia. And they wrote me back a letter, and I have the letter in my hand, and here's what it says. Records which may have been responsive to your request were destroyed on February 8th, 2010. And then below it says, this response neither confirms nor denies the existence of your subject's name on any watch list. Well, that's BS, because I know that, when we were followed, we were also, that was another thing, we were followed pretty much wherever we went. And being that when I was a youngster, I built hot rods and street raced. That was my thing. That's what I did. Well, some of the cars that were following us, I managed to get behind and get the license plates. And I gave them to police officer Larry Fawcett, who you know, Patricia.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And he ran them through the police computers, and lo and behold, they weren't issued to anybody. Now, this happened in Connecticut, and then in Florida, and it happened more than once. In Florida, Betty and I were camping on Lake Worth Road in the Lake Worth campground. I guess we got enough Lake Worth in there. Okay, we went to the laundromat early in the morning to do our laundry. Nobody was in there except the attendant and then Betty and I. So we're doing the laundry, and this big Buick pulls in kind of fast. Guy gets out of the car, jumps out with a camera, bing, 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 takes about 3 or 4 pictures, gets back in the car and takes off. And Betty asked the attendant, says, is this place for rent or sale or something? Why are they taking pictures? And the woman said, I don't know. Well, I had run out, and I got the license plate before the guy got out of the yard. And, again, I gave it to Larry Fawcett. And, again, guess what? Unissued. Plates didn't belong to anybody. So now this is years into this going on. Then in 2000, remember, this started 1979. In 2000, Betty and I purchased a condo in West Palm Beach, Florida. And, we like warm weather, so that seemed like a good move.
Right.
When we got there is a guard gate, and you have to show ID at this guard gate to get in. Well, we came in, and the silver car came in right behind us pretty quickly. So I said, I don't believe it. I think we're being followed even down here. So I went zipping around. The roads are kind of complex in there. I mean, there's like 15,000 people in this area when it's full to capacity. So I went zigzagging all around and finally came up opposite the car, and the window was open, and this is exactly what Betty and I heard. She said, they're here now. They're here now. It was a woman. So, why even bother? I mean, we're not.
Exactly.
By this time, we had stopped lecturing. We weren't bothering anybody, and it was just harassment. But there were some advantages, Patricia. I must say this. For a number of years, we sold our house and purchased a 30-foot camp trailer. And this, to me, this was a great life because I worked in Connecticut in the summer months, and then in the winter, we'd hook up the trailer and we'd go to Florida. And I'd work there in the winter. I had agreements with both places. So this was a great lifestyle. But the advantage was whenever we got to either Florida or Connecticut, I had my phone hooked up instantly. I mean immediately, even on Sunday. It was one case. We pulled in.
Isn't that funny?
Betty and I pulled in. We came back to Connecticut, and it was late in the day, in the afternoon. So I'm a kind of a techie guy, so I just hooked up the phone myself to one of the outlets that was there. Well, the next day, which was Sunday morning, there's a guy from the phone company there, and he says, I have to straighten this out. I says, why? What's wrong? He says, well, you could be calling all over the country, and we wouldn't be able to charge you. And my thought there was, damn it, I wish I knew that when I hooked it up.
Right.
But and we were there's times, even when we went out of state, where we'd be followed by either state police, sometimes local police, but usually state, and they'd be behind the car for quite a while, and you could see them looking. Apparently, they were checking our license plate, because one time in Tennessee, my car broke down. We pulled over by the side of the road, and we weren't there 3 minutes, tops, and a state trooper pulled up. What's the problem? I said, got a car problem. So he arranged for us to be towed to a place to get it fixed. But it just seemed strange to me that he turned up so darn fast. I mean, we never, ever were short of assistance from police or anything like that. Now, some of the other things, the more subtle hints, when we were in the campground in Florida, Betty was working in Middletown, and she went her way in the morning and I went my way. Well, she come out one morning, and she come out all excited, and she said, look at this. In the back of her car, we didn't lock doors there in the campground. In the back of her car was a gallon, kind of like a big pickle jug, and it was dead rotting meat in the jug. So
that's disgusting.
I might be a little slow, but I kind of took that as a hint.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody was trying to tell us something. But another interesting thing, when we moved out of the home in Cheshire, I forgot to mention this before, we found a tree stand. There's a large tree in our driveway about 40 feet from the house, and it was somebody put a tree stand in there. Now, why that's unusual, we didn't have any kids in the neighborhood. So I don't know if somebody was watching us from there or not. I'm going to back up a little bit now.
Quite likely, because, it's not like it was a hunting chair or something. You weren't out in the middle of the forest. You were in a suburb. So
exactly.
Why else would they do it except to have a place to watch you or mount a camera, microphones, whatever? I mean, it gave them a vantage point.
Probably all of the above.
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting, the surveillance in the 80s, was pretty heavy, but around 1982, the end of 81, the beginning of 82, Larry Warren called me at my job. He saw an article on us in the Hartford Courant that we had been lecturing at MIT on the UFO phenomenon. So he decided to call me at work. And I didn't know Larry Warren from Adam, but he told me at my job, he said, look, he says, I got out of the military, I was in the Air Force, I said I had a UFO experience while on active duty in the Air Force, and I'd like to tell somebody about it. So I thought, well, we've been pranked before, several times, by people pulling stuff like that. But I said, okay. I made an agreement with him to come to our house at a certain time. I said, well, maybe it's worth listening to, maybe not, who knows. But anyways, he showed up, and we spent hours with Larry. I recorded him. He drew us drawings of what he saw. Turns out Larry was a witness to the landing at Bentwaters Air Force Base, outside of Bentwaters Air Force Base in England. Right. And for his trouble, he was in Southington. He was severely beaten sometime later. Actually opened his skull up with a pipe. So this was, not good. But anyway, he was the one that actually broke that open. And today, a number of men that were on duty with him have come forward and verified this. And I think there's a movie about it. There's been a number of TV shows about it. And once that happened, once Larry came to see us, lo and behold, the surveillance on us even increased. And we couldn't go anywhere. They were parked down the street. One day we came out and left the house. I didn't get a block, and this car pulls up out from the curb and follows us. So I went into a churchyard. There was a sign there. It says no exit, but I knew there was an exit up top. So I drove up there, and the guy parked right at the entrance to the road that I went into the churchyard with. Well, Betty and I came around the block, and we ended up facing the guy, and this was great fun because he was obviously shook up. He just took off, boom, down the street, and we were laughing, but we thought it was so funny, neither one of us get the guy's license plate. But I'm sure it was one of those that had been tailing us or keeping an eye on us at that time. Even at home, we did some radio shows like this at home back at that time. And just before one show was starting, a black Cadillac pulled up on the same side of the street as our house, and he parked right at the end of the driveway. And then a white van pulled up on the other side of the street and parked directly across from our house. Now, why this is interesting, nobody exited vehicles. And they sat there for the whole duration of the show we did, which I believe was an hour show. Well, during the break, intermission, I went out and I tried to get fairly close to that Cadillac, but the windows were black. And I couldn't, it was dark, it was nighttime, I couldn't get a license plate, and I was not going to go up and rap on a window because I thought that might be hazardous to my health at the time.
But just a little bit.
Interestingly enough, they had to be listening in because once the show started winding down, 3 minutes from the end of the show, they both took off. The interesting thing here is their lights were off. I could not see any license plates, and one was on the wrong side of the road because they were both headed the same way in front of our house. So,
oh my goodness,
sometimes there were some funny moments.
Yes, I mean, again, with your good sense of humor and your good attitude, you were able to keep a strong sense of reality, and you didn't let them, scare you off.
Oh no, we had fun with them. I think you know the place in New Hampshire, the campground that I'm talking about.
Yes,
where Betty and I
do.
used to. Oh, okay. Well, one day we came from Connecticut up to New Hampshire to a campground, and we were tenting at the time. We got a beautiful site right next to the water, which was quite cold coming down a mountain stream. So I put all our, soda and whatnot in there in the stream, and we tented right next to the stream. We put up our tent, and we had the big German Shepherd. So I drove a big stake in the ground, and we chained him to that right in front of the tent door. Mm-hmm. Well, we're there maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, and this black SUV comes in. And he parks at the site directly opposite us. Now, first off, it's a black SUV. Second off, there's just one guy. Third, he finally gets out. It's getting not really dark like twilight. And the guy gets out with a tent, and he can't put it up. He can't assemble it. And he's swearing a blue streak. And, we can hear him. Betty and I are in the tent laughing. I think this was our tale. But anyways, he's swearing up a blue streak out there. Finally, you can hear the metal bars clanking on the ground when he threw everything down. And he went and he slept in the SUV. So that was another little bit of entertainment for us.
Now, you also came across Men in Black, right?
That was interesting. In the campground in, again, Lake Worth, that was one of my favorite campgrounds, by the way, and unfortunately it's no longer there because the property got so valuable, I guess they sold it out. But one occasion, Betty and I were headed from Connecticut to Pompano Beach, where Betty's sister lived. We were going to visit for a while. And normally, I would make that trip in nonstop. And it was a long ride, but I like driving, so not a problem. But this time we hit construction, we hit accidents, and then we were hours and hours on the road. So we got as far as Lake Worth, and I told Betty, look, I'm dead tired. I'm going to pull in here. We'll get a lot in a campground. And we had a car that was a hatchback, and it had seats that folded down, so you could be reasonably comfortable in it. Mm-hmm. So we went in, and while I was getting the lot, and this was interesting, 2 people were talking about a UFO sighting there the night before.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. But I was dead tired, and I was not going to get involved in a conversation. So I got our lot. Down there, the way the lots are laid out, the roads run east and west, and the lots run north and south. So the compass in the car is reading dead north. Okay, we parked the car. We're sitting there talking, unwinding a little bit. And this thing, the size of a grapefruit, comes through the door on the driver's side, and it looks like a disco ball. It's all different colors, and it's like reflecting or sparkling. It goes through the car and out the other side. And Betty and I looked at each other and said, did you see that? Yeah, we both saw it. Okay, that's weird. Well, finally we got a little wound down, put the seats down, made ourselves as comfortable as we could. We figured we'll get up in the morning, take a shower, and start fresh and head off for her sister's. Well, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock. It was late. I had to use the restroom. Well, we were, I don't know, maybe 20 yards, 30 yards from the restroom. But just before that, what woke me up, I heard a car come in and park. And I looked, and this car parked behind us at a 90-degree angle to us, and it was a black Cadillac. So I thought, well, probably guys or somebody's trying to beat the campground out of their fee, I didn't think anything more of it. I went to the restroom, and I'm coming back, and as I approached the rear of this Cadillac, I noticed it's got yellow New York plates, which I was familiar with because Connecticut, we see a lot of New York plates.
Right.
As I'm walking past the car, this is where it gets weird. All 4 doors opened exactly at the same time, as if it was one door opening. And these 4 guys get out, and they're very skinny. They're Asian looking. They have on each one has a black suit, black shoes, black tie, a black hat with a brim, and a white shirt. And they're looking at me. All 4 of them are just looking at me. So once I took a look at them, I really didn't feel anything as far as fear or anything like that, because these guys looked like a good wind would have taken them away. Mm-hmm. So I walk by, and I'm staring at them, and I get past the front of the car, and they do almost like kids do with musical chairs. They rotate around the car, they get back in, and they shut all the doors again, exactly like one door. I heard one noise. All 4 doors shut at exactly the same time.
That is
so
weird.
I'm thinking, that's what I thought. I said, boy, these guys are a little weird.
But
here's the thing. We got up when we got up in the morning, Patricia, the compass, which was pointing north, was now pointing almost due east. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, that's another weird thing. Unfortunately, Bob, we're running out of time, and this has been just a wonderful, wonderful evening with you. I know, PK,
well, I so much
enjoy.
I enjoy talking with you guys all the time because you want to bring to people what's going on, what's happening, get truth out, and I think that's great.
Well, we have to, and you are just superb at sharing
fabulous.
All of this information.
Absolutely fabulous.
Now, again, I want to mention the name of your book, The Andreasson Affair.
I'm going to get a big...
And The Lifting of the Veil are both available on Amazon.com. They are highly recommended books by both PK and myself. Excellent books, very well written. And, Bob, we're just going to have you back so we can continue this conversation because it was so incredible. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Okay, thank you both. I certainly appreciate it. You have a great evening, both of you.
Yeah, you too.
Care, Bob.
I hate to end the show.
Bye-bye
it's
now.
So fabulous. Thank you. So next week, everybody, we'll be back again with another great show. We're going to do some ghost hunting. Be sure to join us. Until then, see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night now.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural Girls.